Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Unplugged Woodworkers podcast. So, what have I been up to? I did do a video. This was a detailed video on doing multiple dovetails. It's very long-winded, I must admit. I think it's like 35 minutes long. It's like a 35-minute long YouTube video. You don't really see a lot of 35-minute YouTube videos. Rather, I don't see a lot of 35-minute YouTube videos. As I said, it is long-winded, but it's very, very detailed. It kind of shows how I do like multiple dovetails without a vise or anything. So it might be worth you checking out, even if you can cut dovetails, just to see how it can be done without a vise. You know, some of the stuff I use, it's very simple. The setup I use. So yeah, go and check that out if you want to check that out. I'm pretty much finished up with the dovetail chests. There should be some finished photos of it in the next couple of days. Should be. I am planning on doing possibly. I'm definitely going to be doing another project. This is going to be for myself. I haven't fully made my mind up, but there is going to be a video for whatever I do. I am kind of leaning towards a 5 boarded bench. I do need one and I don't need one, so there is some like furniture I do need in the house. I'm trying to prioritize kind of what I need and you know what's going to be like utilized better. So I'm still not 100% on the 5 boarded bench, but if I do make it, it's pretty much going to be jointless. It's going to be put together with rose head nails and stuff. It's a really simple build, but you can make it as simple as you want, or you can make it as fancy as you want. with some nice mouldings on it and patterns and whatever else. So there's going to be something coming out. I'm not too sure what, but I am leaning towards that, like I said. So today I'm going to talk about clamps. I was, to be honest with you, this week I was, when you're trying to think of something to talk about and nothing was coming to mind, and obviously Sunday was getting closer and closer, and I said, well, what am I going to talk about? So clamps popped into my head, so I thought it might actually be quite a good topic to be honest. But same again, if you've got any ideas for us, or even if you've got some questions, fire the questions, and even if I answer a few questions before I talk about something, it might kind of break it up a little bit. Any ideas would be greatly appreciated, so don't be shy, leave a comment or whatever. So clamps, I'm just going to go through some of the different types of clamps that I own or have used. I think pretty much everything on this list I do actually own. So it's the old saying, you can never have too many clamps, and this is so true. I don't know how many times I've been clamping stuff up and I've run out of clamps. It's just over the years I've acquired more and more clamps. To be honest, compared to a lot of woodworkers, I've probably got like a minuscule amount. Probably the reason this is because they just for a decent clamp that costs so much money. Personally, I think although there is some clamps I haven't not clamps but brands I haven't tried out some certain brands. I mean, like you've got Bessie. And obviously there's like equivalents to Bessie. I think Axe Minister does some like equivalents to Bessie. It's kind of like the same sort of design. I haven't actually tried them out. I'm guessing in America it's probably going to be the same thing. There is like cheaper versions of like the Bessie designs, but I can't really comment on them. So the first one on the list is going to be, I'm not actually too sure what you would call these. I mean, I think they're a sash clamp, but it's like I think I have heard a few American guys call them like freight clamps. They're like a freight sash clamp. It's pretty much like a sash clamp, but it's made like with like aluminium basic, well, or at least the ones I have got. They're not actually in the picture, the thumbnail for this, although I do have them. It's been a very long time since I've used them. They're around at me muller's in a shed. They haven't been like touched for years. To be honest, I've got a lot of stuff around me muller's house. That's, it's kind of it's in storage, if you like. There's a lot of tools around there. Too many actually. I should really sort my tools out and maybe get rid of some, but I've got a bit of a problem with tools and an addiction, if you like. So going back to these freight clamps, I'm going to call them freight clamps. I think technically they are like kind of aluminium sash clamps. So I think these were the first kind of like sash clamps I got, and primarily what I got them for was to glue multiple boards up, for like coffee tables, things like that, where you're gluing 2 and 3 boards up. They're not really any good, or at least the sizes of the ones I've got, they're not really any good for like tabletops and such. They just haven't got the length on them. I do believe you can get the longer ones, but these, I can't really remember what the maximum ones of these are. I don't know if they were like 700 or 800 millimeters or 750. I can't quite remember, but they weren't really ideal for obviously for tabletops, because it's just not wide enough, long enough in width. They're kind of okay. I can't really like say they're bad, but at the same time, I don't know if I can say they're good. I mean, when you get them, there is obviously there's a few things you can do to them. Obviously, the first thing would be to grease up the the bolt section, the section that tightens. And another thing that I actually seen Paul Sellers do this. To be honest, I think Paul Sellers is the only person that's done this. To actually place some timber inside of the aluminium section, the shaft or the shaft really. So I believe he just put a bit pine in. I believe, I don't think it was a hardwood, but obviously the pine was enough to help strengthen it up, because the issue with these is when you start tightening them up, they'll actually start to bore quite easy because they're aluminium. So that can be a bit of an issue. I think another thing with these that have got the limitations, when you are clamping them up, if you're clamping, say you're clamping 2 or 3 boards up, there might be one of the joints where you might have just that little bit too much of a hollow, in the middle of your boards, because lately I've just been leaving a hollow in the 2 ends, and obviously you clamp them together, and you can get away with fewer clamps. I might be typically using about 2 or 3 clamps. You can basically create a hollow in the middle. Technically, you could use 1 clamp technically, although it doesn't always work out like that. But that's kind of what the technique. It's people that use it kind of spout it off and say, "Oh yeah, you can use 1 clamp." And I have done it with 1 clamp, but I do tend to use more. So sometimes these like freight clamps or the aluminium sash clamps, they just haven't got enough oomph with them. They just won't pull the boards together, and it seems like they're struggling. You might have to use I think 2. I've had to use 2 quite a few times. Another thing, while I remember, if you do buy these clamps, I'm not saying don't buy them, but another thing you can do is that on the sections on the head, and obviously on the section that you'll actually tighten, on the two pads. These are a metal. I think the same again. I think they're. I don't think the steel. There's some sort of metal. I don't think aluminium either. But regardless, another thing you can do is actually put some padding on these heads. Whether it be a little bit of ply, just epoxy a little bit of ply on, maybe a little bit of leather. I think I'd just personally go with a ply. Obviously I've got quite a lot of it, just little bits of it lying around, different thicknesses. So I'd probably personally use the ply. So I mean, I use these for quite some time, and they did get us woodworking quite cheap. I can't remember the price I paid for them, but I know at the time they were really, really cheap. I think they're a bit more expensive now because obviously I think Paul Sellers obviously promoted them, and then obviously I'm not saying the bad clamps. It's just there is better clamps out there, in my personal opinion anyway. But obviously Paul promoted them, and obviously the companies get a little bit greedy and start charging that little bit extra, don't they? Especially when they find out somebody like Paul Sellers has promoted them, they'll stick that extra few quid on, which I don't agree with. But that's life, isn't it? So next on the list is some quick release clamps. So while I've got it fresh in my head, I am going to comment on the Bessie quick release clamps. Now, there'll probably be a lot of people that hasn't seen these ones, and I'd never seen them before. These were a present that were bought for us, and they're really funny in the way they operate. Because if you think of quick release clamps, you'll think of like a kind of a gun looking clamp, if you like, and obviously it would work in the same way as a mastic gun. For those of you that you don't understand what I'm saying, kind of like a mastic gun. That's how quick release clamps kind of work. Well, these Bessie ones I've got, these kind of have a handle on them. Instead of working like a gun, you would kind of like, it's a little bit hard to describe actually. You kind of just there's just a trigger on the handle bit. It's very bizarre. I think I've had them for over a year now, and I remember reading a comment on some forum, and someone saying they are awkward to get the hang of, but once you get the hang of them, they're absolutely great. But I just haven't got the hang of them. They just don't. I don't know. I just kind of get away with them. Having said that, I do use them quite regularly because they do the job, and they do the job very well. I've heard this from a few people, and there's been quite a few people say Bessie, don't waste your money on them. They're overly priced. You're just paying for the name, sort of thing. That might be the case. You might be paying for the name, but my personal experiences with at least two different types of Bessie. I can't say the third one, but definitely two different types of Bessie clamps. I think they're absolutely great. Obviously, the quick release one, I can't quite get away with a handle. It's so awkward for me. Maybe I should have a look into the mechanics of it. Maybe I'm just making things awkward for myself. But other than the operation of it, I mean, when this thing gets a hold of it, it's out of all my quick release clamps that I've got, because I have got different makes. To be honest, they are all cheaper makes, but I will say the Bessie ones grip the wood the best. That's my experience anyway. Another good thing I like about these ones, I do think this is a feature on different types of quick release clamps, but for me, it's the first time I've seen it on a clamp, and I've got it's just like a little button on the side. Obviously, you turn it, or a little knob if you like. You turn the knob, and it'll actually when you clamp it up, it'll actually push things apart. So if you've got maybe a Windsor chair or a Welsh stick chair, you could actually apply some heat to the joints, and you could actually just literally push the joint apart, clamp the joint apart, which I think is pretty cool. As I said, it's the first time I've seen them, like on a clamp. Obviously, I knew they existed, but it's my first like clamp with that sort of action on it. So I think that's pretty cool. So the cheaper clamps, which probably everybody's got, and that kind of works like a mastic gun, if you like. I will say the mechanics of those are a lot easier. A lot for me personally, a lot better to use. I do recommend them, especially to anyone that's starting out. The issue, what I've personally find with them, especially when you're buying the cheaper ones, is that after I don't know, maybe a year or two, or I think 3 years at a push, being used regularly, the kind of, they lose the oomph, if you like. They don't tend to tighten up too well. You can actually rough up the sides, the corners off the shaft with a little bit of some maybe 120 grits or 80 grits, sandpaper, and that does help them grip a little bit better. To be honest, I think I should actually go through some of my clamps and do that, because they're not in good shape. Obviously, as well, I personally find with the cheaper clamps, the action in the trigger portion that you're pulling, that gets really stiff very easily. Obviously, I think it's just with the sawdust getting inside. So I should probably spray some 3-in-1 oil in there. I really should take the time and give them a good service, and see if I can bring them back. But the current ones that I've got, I think about 2 of them's like well over 3 years old. I think it's about I think one of them's about 6 year old or something. It's hanging on by dear life. There's a couple of other ones I might be able to do something with them. So possibly might have a go and see what I can do with those. As well, the trouble with the cheaper ones, it's more so when they're newer, and obviously, the grabbing actions, it's stronger. Me personally, I've snapped quite a few of the heads off. They've just literally broke off, under the pressure. So I don't know if that's been just because of the cheap plastic, or because it's been a bad casting or whatever of the plastic. I'm not too sure, but if you're buying cheap ones, I'd be prepared for that. I have seen people, repair them and make new wooden heads. I've personally never done that, but obviously, it is kind of doable. So next on the list is some spring clamps. So spring clamps, what I mean by spring clamps is, kind of the clamps, what you would use to strengthen your grip, what you would squeeze together. I'm sure everyone's used one of those, kind of like that. So it's kind of like the same principle as a set of pliers, but obviously it's got springs. So obviously the spring back and clamp. I've got a few of these, and to be honest, I quite like them. They're very handy. Sometimes you just need that third hand, don't you? And I think that's where these shine. You'll not get a lot of clamping pressure with these, but I think they might act as a third, fourth, even a fifth hand. Because obviously sometimes you do need an extra set of hands sometimes. So these are very handy for that. What I'll tend to use these clamps for is when I'm rip cutting. If I'm rip cutting a piece, and like pretty much anything over like close to a meter, like 800 plus, I'll use one of these clamps. And as I'm sawing, when I get down towards the end of the rip cuts, I'll place one of these clamps at the top of the cuts where I started, and it just basically holds it. It stops it from dropping, because when you're ripping, if you just let the piece go, it can actually free off the corner. So if you're cutting close to your line and then you just want to finish it off with a plane, if you take a few passes with a plane, say you've maybe got like 2-3 millimeters to take off with the plane. So if you just let it go, you might take the corner off, and that corner might be in the region of about like quarter of an inch to 6 millimeters, and it's just not something you want to do. So it's something as simple as just putting one of those clamps is going to stop that from happening, which is pretty good. I do use them a lot, say when I'm filming as well. All these not so great videos I do for YouTube. I pretty much, I've got my GoPro there, and obviously I don't use my phone that much now because my phone's getting a bit old now, and it's pretty much the speakers are stuffed with sawdust, like fine sawdust. They've got wax in them off candles, and the speakers, the microphone section of my phone is just like really bad. But for the time I was using the phone, I would just literally get one of these spring clamps and clamp my phone to the chair. And I'll do the same with the GoPro as well. I have got the tripod for the GoPro, but sometimes I will still use these spring clamps, and they work quite good for that. Another way I use them is for templates sometimes. I don't use a lot of templates. I have got a few templates there. Obviously the template for the tape cassettes, obviously that's like quite a big square, and there's like there's quite a bit of information there, so I'll get that pretty much lined up where I want it on the boards that I've got glued together, clamp it into place, and I'll just obviously do all my markings. So they're quite good for things like that. Next up is Jig Clamps. I think there's some people that'll call them C clamps as well, but I call them Jig Clamps because they resemble more of the letter G to me rather than the C. So if you can imagine, for those that don't know, you can see they're a C shape, and obviously they've got the bolts that goes through the bottom or the top, whichever way you're gonna have it. And obviously it just tightens up like that. These are, my personal opinion, these are good little clamps, and you can get a lot of pressure on them. The only issue with them, personally, I find, is that you can get a bit too much pressure on them, and with the pads being so small, because I tend to use like little 2-inch to 3-inch ones. I think I might have some 4-inch ones as well. I can't quite remember the sizes, but these will leave like little indentations if you over tighten them. If you go and watch or you have watched it, whichever, the newer video I've just done, the dovetailing tutorial, I actually use me toolbox, or one of my toolboxes, and I'm just using these Jig clamps to fit the not the tail portion, the pin portion to that box. Obviously the box is on top of the Roman workbench, and I'm just fixing the pin piece with these Jig clamps. So I've only got two either side, and they are quite good, but as I say, you have got to be careful you don't over tighten them, because you'll put an indentation. You'll end up like with around an indentation in the wood. I mean, it's not the end of the world. You could actually steam this out with a little bit of water and like a damp cloth and an iron. But if you're doing this on the likes of pine, it can be an issue, because pine's a lot softer. If it's like if you're using spruce or pine, it's just going to really like big indentation. So you have got to be mindful of things like that. Another issue with them, depending on where you're buying them from, if you're getting cheap Chinese ones, I've had a few of them, and they will just like literally snap. You'll get a breakage if you're tightening them and you're over tightening them. It can be, especially if you're getting the cheaper ones, it can be quite often just for the whole section of the tighten section to just basically snap off. I've had that happen a few times now. I had, in all fairness, I have been probably over tightening a bit too much, but at the same time, I don't think they should have snapped. For how tight they were. That's just my opinion, but I think sometimes the saying's true is you get what you pay for. It's not always true, but 9 out of 10 it is true. So they are still quite good clamps, and it is. It is handy to have quite a few of them. I think I must have like more than a dozen there. I can't quite remember how many. I've probably got more than that. It's probably closer to 20. About 20 of them I've got. They are really handy for just bits and bobs. I can't really think of anything offhand, but I do use them on a regular basis. They do come in handy. So they're pretty good clamps to have. Next on the list are F clamps. Same again. They call an F clamp because they kind of resemble an F, the letter F. I've actually got, how many of these? I think I've got about 4 of these. I was actually working away. I was offshore, and my friend, he contacted us, and he says, listen, I'm in I think it was Aldi or Lidl. It was one of the two, and he says, oh, they've got these clamps, and I says, pick us a few up, which he did, and I'm very glad he did. Although I don't use them a lot, they are really, really good clamps. The steel on them is made very, very well. The handles are plastic, which I don't really. Anyone who follows us knows I don't really like plastic handles on tools or whatever else. But I'm not too bad with them on clamps. Anyway, these ones, these plastic handles, they're quite good. The way they're shaped. And just the material, it's obvious. I think it's kind of a bit of a mixture of plastic and rubber. So as you're turning them, you're actually getting a good grip, and obviously the way the handle's formed, you're able to get a good grip as well. So that's one of the good things. Any type of clamp you're looking for, you should be able to get a good grip on it, and it should be able to tighten up well. And these do exactly the job. So I don't know if you're still able to get these in Lidl's and Aldi. It's probably worth, for anyone that's in the UK. I'm not sure if Aldi and Lidl kicks about in Europe and America. I'm not too sure, but if it does, if you can get into an Aldi or Lidl, you're probably worth having a look for the clamps. As I say, these F clamps, they were like bang on. I couldn't fault them. As I said, I don't really use them a great deal, but when I do use them, I did actually use one. I think it was last week. And as soon as I used it, I actually thought to myself, why aren't I using these more? Because they're really good quality. I forget the price of them, but they were dirt cheap as well. I can't remember the capacity. I think the capacity may be somewhere in the region of like, you'll get like, I think it's maybe like 400, maybe 450 millimeters you can get in, like basically what you can clamp up. I think that's your max. But yeah, I mean, I remember, like, obviously it was only a week ago, so I remember saying to myself, why aren't I using these more? You know, they are really good quality. As I said, the steel's bang on. The handle's really good. It's like ergonomically, it's, you know, you can get really good grip on it, and you're able to get like a good bite on it. The threading on the bolt section, that seems to be really good as well. You know, because obviously on the cheaper clamps, any threading tends to be not great. It's not milled very well, but these seem to be milled quite well. You know, and as I said, I haven't really used them extensively, so I can't really comment on the longevity of them. But you know, from a visual inspection, and obviously trying them out, what I have tried it out, you know, I would say that they are pretty good clamps. As I said, if you shop in Aldi or whatever, or Lidl, and you see them, you'll probably, you know, if this podcast might spring to mind, you know, and you know, it might trigger you to buy them. But if you do see them, you should be able to tell if it's the same ones I got anyway. You should be able to tell they are really good quality, and you know, you might be wise to pick them up for the price. So I'm going to get into a few Bessie clamps now. I'm going to get the worst one out of the way. I say the worst one. This is the only one I don't really like too much. So it's the Bessie Uni clamp. These are only like small. They're kind of small and flimsy. And I'm a bit surprised with like Bessie because obviously the other Bessie ones I've got, you know, they tend to be all right. But these Uni clamps, you know, as I said, they seem a bit flimsy. I'm not too sure what the kind of design for. What I've been using them for, not so much lately, but I was using them for like coffee table, like tops, things like that. But I find with these, you've got to use like, you know, like at least 4 of them type of thing, you know. The issue with them is when you're tightening them up, obviously the shafts, you know, that bow is really bad. So it might be that fact, you know, they mightn't be designed for things like this, but that's the only thing I would use them for, to be honest. The handles aren't very good on them. Again, I'm really like shocked with the design of these ones compared to the other Bessies I've seen and actually own and used. So the handles are, I believe, the handles, the round. They've got paint on them, and it's like a high gloss finish as well. So, you know, if anything that's got a high gloss finish on it, it tends to be slippy, you know. So when you're tightening them up, or at least when I'm tightening them up, my hands are slipping. Bearing in mind I have got a really strong hand grip. Obviously I scaffolded for 21 years, so my hand grip is probably stronger than a lot of people who haven't scaffolded. So I don't like that. I mean, possibly what I could do is, I think I seen a guy on YouTube, I believe, he's called John Hurst or John Hines. He's a woodworker from Canada. He's primarily like you know, power tools. He's actually quite a clever guy. He's been blogging and doing YouTube videos for a long time. He's a very, very clever guy. He knows woodworking inside out. But I seen a video of him years and years ago when I was using power tools and, you know, a table saw and stuff. And I think he must have had the same sort of issue. So basically he made his own handles, and he basically just drilled a hole and stuck a load of epoxy resin in it, and just epoxy resined that bigger handle onto the smaller handle. I think that's possibly something I may do, but if I do that, it possibly might damage the clamps, because my personal opinion is that the clamps, the handles on the clamps, the reason they're as small as what they are, so you kind of get excess pressure on them. But if I'm not going to use them for like gluing multiple boards up, I don't think I'll kind of be using them, so it kind of defeats the object of having them. So I think it's a bit of a cop-out. Me personally, I think they should have beefed the shaft up a little bit. I wouldn't really recommend these Uniclamp ones. A little bit disappointed in Bessie with these ones, to be honest, but it is what it is. So the next Bessie one I'm going to talk about, I think these are called the Revo. So these are like proper, what I would say proper clamps, for tabletops and gluing multiple boards up, and you'll get the pressure where you need it. The clamping pressure, these things. I don't actually know what the clamping pressure is, but I do know it's it's a very good clamping pressure. If you want something to close up, it's going to close the thing up. End of story. There's no guesswork with these. You see a gap or whatever, you might have a hollow in your. If you're gluing boards up, you might have deliberately left a hollow. I mean, I've never done it, but you probably could, be careless and do too much of a hollow. I think these clamps would actually, one of them would actually pull the boards together. They're that good. My personal opinion, anyway. Not that you want to do that. You just want to get if you're going to use one clamp and you're going to pull a hollow in the center, you don't want to go too crazy with a hollow, obviously. But these are really good. So I think there's a couple of different models of these ones. So I've got like 2 different models. I don't really know the models, but there's a one that's got a fixed head, which means the head at the bottom that doesn't move at all, and obviously you've got the movable section that's actually got the tightening section, if you like. So obviously that moves up and down the shaft. Obviously you get it into place and tighten that up. And then I've got the other model where the head will actually move. So there's a little there's like a little button on the underside of the head, the bottom head section. So that moves about. I haven't really found a use for it. I've never really looked into why it does that, though obviously there is going to be a reason. The same with the handles. The handles are very ergonomically designed. These have got I think it's kind of like a rubber plastics, same sort of thing that I was talking about before. You can get a really good grip on them. The threading on the tightening section, same again, it's milled excellent, it's really, really good. The shaft, that seems a really good quality steel. And as I said, anytime I clamp anything up with these, it's clamped. There's no issues with it. They're really good clamps. The issue with them, for me anyway, is that they cost an arm and a leg. They're very, very, very expensive. I remember going to the northeast of England woodworking show, and there was the Bessie store there, and the guy was selling selling the Bessie clamps. So I approached the guy and I says, "Oh, have you got any deals on? Can you do anything for us?" And he says, "As a matter of fact, we have." I forget what the deal was, but it was like 4 clamps for like however much money, and I thought it's really expensive. And I actually said to the guy, I says, "It's a bit more than I wanted to pay, because obviously I want to have a look around around it. I'm going to purchase some wood. I may be purchasing some tools because I've got problems with tools. I used to joke to my friend all the time, I'm going down to the markets to buy tools I don't really need, and I did. I used to just buy tools I didn't need. Obviously real problems with buying tools. but anyway, I was having a bit of a chat with him, and basically he says you buy these and that's it. You'll buy the clamp once, and that'll be it. And with the Revo, the heavy duty ones, obviously I've got like 4 of them. No, so I haven't. I've got 5 of them. I do plan on getting some more of those because I do believe his statement and saying once you've got them, you'll never have to replace them. And just how they've held up, and as I said, they're really good quality. They are a bit heavy. Kind of, I suppose they've got to be. They've got I can't really just looking at them. They do look big and bulky, and obviously they are heavy for that reason. But I think with them being big and bulky, they're obviously like able to, basically make them last longer, stronger, whatever else. Big things, big bulky things like that, they do tend to be like, more reliable. Better build quality and everything. So I'm very, very happy with them. I'm very happy that I bought them, when I was fortunate enough to have the money to buy them. But as I said, they are really expensive. You are able to get like kind of like the cheapo versions of these. I know Axminster does some here in England. I haven't tried them, so I can't say they're good, but at the same time I can't say they're bad. I haven't really had one in my hands to look at it, but from pictures they do kind of look like the same sort of design. So I'll have to check the prices out. If they're a lot cheaper. I can't remember how much cheaper they were, but if they are a lot cheaper, I may purchase 1 or 2 of them and give them a whirl for a couple of months. And if I think they're just as good, obviously I'll go out and buy some. Obviously when I'm a bit better set for cash, like, as I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people not doing too great for cash at the moment, just with the state of affairs around the world. But you've got to have clamps, so it's an excuse for us to save up and buy some. You can never have enough clamps. So the last one on the list I'm going to go over, because I'm getting a bit close to my time now, is a pocket jig clamp. The one I've got, obviously it's a Craig one, and I bought it for back in the day when I used to do a lot of like pocket hole joinery. So this was used to clamp the pocket hole jig onto the piece of wood. It's kind of I forget the name. It's some type of clamp what you get, and what's the name? I can't remember the name, but it's like a kind of like, are they called set pliers? You'll basically clamp this piece of, you'll get these pliers, and these pliers will clamp onto a bolt or a nut, and you've got like a little adjustment screw at the bottom. I forget the name of them now. So basically it clamps into place like a clamp basically. Well, kind of the Craig that's what the Craig jig's kind of like, but obviously it's got a big square section, so it goes around wood. I do use this from time to time, obviously not for the pocket hole joinery, but just more to to keep things in place. Yeah, it is quite handy for that. I mean, to be honest, I'm not too sure the price of them. I think they're a little bit overpriced for what they are, but if they weren't too expensive, I'd probably go out and buy a few of them, maybe about another 3, so I had like 4 in total. So I think these would actually work out quite well when I was like setting up me 90 degrees like corner jigs, if you like. When I use them, like I've got some like L brackets just made out of plywood. They're set at 90 degrees, and I use these to set me pin board up to me tailboard when I'm doing dovetails. If I'm doing like 2 or 3 boards glued together. So I think those would come in quite handy for that. The they do actually come in handy. Same again, it's not something I really reach for, but I might have a little experiment with them, but it would be pretty good for kind of clamping the wood down to the room and workbench. But I vary with the room and workbench. It just depends what I'm doing. Sometimes I'll use a peg system. Sometimes I use clamps. I get a bit funny like that, from day to day. I can be using pegs for days to hold something down, or wedges or whatever, and then I'll pretty much whatever's to hand. If I've got a clamp to hand, I'll stick a clamp on or whatever. So yeah.